Hey everyone, welcome to this quick startup guide on how to grade your photos. This way you can elevate your photography and get started in basic color grading and really put some life into your photos, even the ones that you think you can't fix. Right, the first step is getting Lightroom Classic. We're not going to get Lightroom itself, Lightroom Classic is the better one. Trust me on that. You want to click on the link in the description and you'll go to this page from Adobe on which you can download Lightroom Classic for yourself. Now this is just the 30-day trial version. It's a good way to test things out and get started. But after this you will have to pay Adobe for the full program. By the way, did I mention I love Pirates of the Caribbean? It's such a great movie. There's so many, it's such a good vibe. There's just so many pirates. I love pirates. So welcome to Lightroom Classic. Right here you can see the interface and it's a bit daunting. It's all gray, it's all weird, all these small words and stuff. Like, where do you even start? Don't worry, just follow me. These tabs here on the top right, they are in chronological work order. So library is your first step. In here you'll pick out your photos. Here you'll develop your photos, and all of these other steps are irrelevant for what we're doing. We're just gonna go library and then develop. So right here on my desktop, I've got a folder with a bunch of photos that I've been taking, and they are raw photos taken with a Canon 60D. But if you've taken photos with a phone, you should also be able to grade it, but not with as much control as raw photos. But you should still be able to follow this tutorial just fine. So we'll go back into Lightroom, we'll click on Quick Collection Plus right here. We'll get our photos and we'll just drag them in. Now here you get to select all of your photos that you want to import, but the way I do it is I just import everything, my whole selection. You know, normally these are hundreds of photos. I'm not going to sit through here and sort them out before I even get a chance to edit them. So we'll just click on Import. And here in the library, we're going to pick the photos that we want to grade. So in here, I do the filtering of like, oh no, that one's bad, that one's good, etc. So we'll just click on this little icon here. This will show the photo in full screen. And yeah, I've got a photo of a bunch of bricks here. Now there's two buttons that we're going to use. We're going to use X and we're going to use P. X stands for reject photo and P stands for pick photo. So right here, we're going to pick this one. And you can see it's flagged as pick. We're going to reject this one. I don't like it at all, even though it looks very good. And this one can use some work as well, etc, etc, etc. This takes a while if you have a lot of photos, but it's definitely worth it in your workflow. So now we're going to move on to the next step and we're going to work on these photos. So first, before we go to the Develop tab, we're going to click on this little filter icon here, this flag icon, right there. And this only shows you the picked photos that you have. You are now ready to go to the next tab. So welcome to the Develop tab. Before we work on anything, we're going to sort our working space here. If you look at the right here, we have all these options, but we don't really need all of them. So we're going to close all of them right now, like this. And the ones that you want to open for basic photo editing are the following: Effects, Transform, Detail, and Basic. So that already narrows our workspace down a bit. Let's go. We'll start from the top. As you can see, there's a bunch of icons here. You don't need to worry about that, but you don't need to close it either. Just leave it for what it is right now. We'll come back to this later. Then we have the Basic menu. Make sure Treatment is set to Color and Profile is set to Adobe Color. It's the default, so you shouldn't have to touch it. So the first step is White Balance, right here. That's what WB stands for. You can choose a preset here, you know, daylight, white balance, cloudy, light balance, shade, etc, etc. Every photo is different, and light decides how every photo looks. That's why we always determine beforehand which part of the photo is considered white. So press the pick and pick a white part of your photo. Not the sky, not a glowing or reflecting object, just something that is as white as possible. In this case, I can't really determine a perfect white spot, but I'll get as close as possible. Right here, this corner, that seems to be white. So I'll click that. And as you can see, that's a bit of a cool effect, and I'm not really happy with that. So in this case, I'm just gonna go to the white balance and click Auto. That's about how it looked in real life. That's what you wanna aim for. Now here's a photo in which you can determine the white point. This white strip right here. I know that in real life this is supposed to be white. So I'll pick this spot right here, right there. And that's exactly how it looked in real life. But we'll go back to our bricks photo. So the first two sliders that we have to deal with are exposure and contrast. Exposure goes into the raw data of your photo and it literally turns up how much light is being let through. It's a smart way of doing it. Whereas contrast just increases or decreases the contrast. Let me show you. So in here, the entire photo gets lighter, but the lightest part of the photo also gets lighter. You'll see that this brick right here is a bit toned out. This is clearly underlit, and exposure can really help you get it back. All that detail, it's still in the raw data and you can just get it back. It's an entirely different photo already. And the same goes for overexposed photos as well. So we can turn down the exposure right here. And now I'll show you what contrast does if we pick that slider. You'll see that it quite literally gets more contrast. I don't really have a different way of explaining that. The next menu we have is highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. Highlights and shadows use the exact same thinking as the exposure slider, and it determines the brightest parts of your photos and the darkest parts of your photos. So if I'll slide that, you'll see that my highlights, that little depth part right there, it increases even more. But if I turn it down, you'll see that it's now back. This way you can fix overexposure. Whereas shadows does the exact same thing, but it's the opposite. I'll turn it all the way down because I like how that looks. And then whites and blacks, the same as contrast, just looks at your photo and increases or decreases the lightest and darkest parts of your picture. You see how that's kind of similar to contrast? How that looks? And keep in mind that you don't need to touch every single slider. If it looks fine, it looks fine. So again, highlights and shadows, that's the smart way, and whites and blacks, that's the simple way. What we've covered up until now will basically fix 90% of the photos that you're having trouble with. It's probably going to be all you need, but if you've come this far already, you might as well take extra care and put that little bit more thought into your photo. Here we've got vibrance and saturation. If you've posted on Instagram before, you'll likely recognize these names. But what do they actually mean? Both of these sliders determine your photo's color. How much color is actually shown. Whereas vibrance looks at the most colorful parts of your picture and increases or decreases that. Saturation does the entire photo. Have a look. Vibrance up. Vibrance down. It all results in black and white if it's 0, of course. But saturation, right here, if I turn that all the way up, bang. Super yellow, super blue, everything's way turned. But if we now decrease the vibrance, you'll see that I'm just keeping those extreme parts of the photo intact. If that's what you want, that's what you want. Me personally, I like to turn on the saturation and turn up the vibrance. It's just a good look. Alright, let's scroll down to the Details tab, because we're done with the basic photo editing. In the Details, you can find the Sharpening menu here, and you can use these 4 sliders to determine how sharp you want your photo to be. This little window here is like a preview, so you can see what effect you're having without having to zoom in. You can use this little icon up here, so I'll click that once, and I'll go over to this part right here, and you can see that we can see the individual pixels of the noise right there. So I'll sharpen it a bit. And the rest of these, you can play around with them, but they're not super duper important for basic stuff. Alright, scrolling further down into the Transform tab, all we're going to focus on are these little presets right here. I'll click on Automatic right here. And what this does is it fixes the angle of your photo using distortion and whatever to make it a more pleasing, more symmetric image, if that makes sense. This could use some aligning. It's not really perfectly straight right here. So all we're going to do is just click Auto. And there you go. It straightens up my photo, it keeps it level, and it's very nice to look at. And now scrolling down to the last tab right here, it's called Effects. And with this, you can apply some cool effects. We'll go back to the bricks. And with this slider right here, you can determine the vignette of your photo, much like Instagram. So you'll see that's a very sort of closed off look, but you can also go the other way and give it a lighter look. I like to use this for really like summer vibe photos. You know, you can give it a cool little vibe. So I'll keep that in right there. And further down, you have the grain amount right here, and it's generally a good idea to add some grain to your photos to give it that little film effect. It looks much better than the noise that we've removed earlier, and it's not like a digital mess. It's like an actual pleasing grain that, you know, I can't really explain it, but it makes the photo just better. So yeah, cool, you've made an awesome photo, and we've gone over the basic stuff. Let's scroll back up and look at those tools that I mentioned at the beginning. This is the adjustment tool. You're already in this. This is what gives you all of these menus right here. This is the cropping tool, and that's what we're going to use in a second. This is a healing tool. This will hide any little spots, maybe a pimple, maybe a bunch of hair. This is basically magic stuff. If we go to this brick right here, this black spot, I'm not a big fan. So I'll click the little thing and I'll decrease the size to like that. Draw over it. And as you can see, it magically erases stuff. Photoshop does this too, but Lightroom is just a quicker implementation of it. Next to that, we have red eye correction. We don't really need that this day and age. And the masking tool. And I'll show you this in a bit. For now, let's crop the photo. So we'll zoom back out. But I don't have my tool selected anymore because I'm still masking stuff. So you want to click close. And now you're back. You've got the hand. That means you can move things around. So we'll click once again, and we're back. Now, I'm going to determine the framing of my photo by clicking the crop tool. It's really easy. It's not complicated at all. You can use angle right here to shift things around. And in here, I can make it smaller. I can shift things around. I can rotate it a bit. And I can apply by pressing enter. Now you might be thinking, what if I want to go back to my previous crop? That's the benefit of raw photography. You keep all the data. All you're doing is applying a layer of all of your effects on top. Your file will be kept intact forever and you can always make changes to it as long as you have the file. So we can choose to crop it again. We can put it back. This can be done at any point in time, but we're doing this in my tutorial now just because that's the way of my tutorial. Oh, I just realized I didn't explain these effects right here. Texture, clarity, and dehaze are nice little effects to increase the presence of your photo. It's really hard to explain, so just mess around with it for yourself and you'll see what they do. But bro, I want sexy photos, the one that makes you go, wow, that looks good. How do I do that? Yeah, I know that's what you're here for. Now we're gonna go to the cool part. Let me go back to the top and explain the masking tool that I didn't explain earlier. So right here, we'll have a bit of a click. And what's happening now, you're in masking mode. So in here, you've got these options. Add new mask for the subject, for the sky, for the background. These will automatically cut out your subject, sky, and background. Pretty obvious. But we're gonna go linear gradient just so I can show you what this does. So we'll click it. And now we've got this funny tool. All I need to do is click and drag. And you can see the area of effect here with this red little weird thing. Don't worry, that's not in your photo. We're just determining this effect. We'll go from the bottom up. You'll notice that a new menu has popped up here. We get to adjust everything we just adjusted, except only in this red area. Here, it makes more sense if you see it. So if I turn down the exposure, way down, you'll see that the exposure is being adjusted. There's not a layer coming on top. It's literally adjusting my photo. So if I turn it all the way up, same can be done with all of these sliders here. I don't need to explain them because I've already done that. So play around with it until you think it looks cool. Super flexible stuff. It's really cool and it really goes to show what you can achieve with just a bunch of sliders. We can also go back by clicking close. And now, going back to the masking tool again, we can make another mask. So we'll go here, create new mask. And for this one, I'm just gonna click select subject. Looks like the arm didn't really catch on there. That's no problem. We'll just go right here. We'll click add. If you're in the layer itself, you gotta click it once, just like that. Click add, go to brush. And now you can freely add whatever you want to the photo. I realize it's a bit complicated, but don't worry. I just wanted to show you what you can do with this. You don't need to do this at all. And as a reward for watching this tutorial, I'm gonna give you an even better tip that'll really make things stand out. And it's easy. Let's put our attention to the left side of the screen. Right here. What's this all about? Presets? What does that word mean? I don't understand. I'll explain it. You've got user presets right here. You can see I've got a bunch. I've got so many more on my MacBook. But what you can do now is you can save the preset that you've made here by clicking this plus button, create preset, give it a funny name. I'll name it tutorial because I'm epic. And this is already pretty good, but you can choose to turn off certain properties. Don't need to worry about this at all. We'll click create. And as you can see, it now appears right here, tutorial. This way, I can now go to my other photo and I can just click it. And it has been applied. Of course, this photo was overexposed to begin with. So you need to understand that this preset that I've made, it does not drag the photo into the look that it has. It simply applies the properties that you've made onto your existing photo. Keep that in mind. We'll click reset, and now my photo has been put to its previous state as it began. And we're gonna go over to the left here, and we're gonna realize that there's like a billion presets right here. You wanna click all of them open if you can. I'll just click a bunch of random ones. But the more you have open, the more choice you have. And what you can do now is quite literally just hover over it with your mouse, and you can immediately see the effect that it has on your photo. Those are just so pleasing to look at. So pick any one you like. Me personally, I'm a big fan of this one. I like the green color, the bit of a haze on top. Just double click it and it's done. That's your photo. You can choose to end it here. This is fine. Don't you even think for 1 second that this is cheating or taking the easy way out. If your photo looks good and you're pleased with it, it does not matter how you came to that conclusion. The matter of the fact is, it's your photo and it's colored the way you want it. So keep that in mind. Me personally, what I do all the time is I use these presets as starting points. You know, I'll determine the vibe from the beginning, and from here on out, I can choose to make some tweaks, make some changes. You know, maybe I want more clarity, texture and stuff. God damn it. So yeah, I just use these as starting points. What the fuck? What? Okay. So now we're done. Final step is exporting your photos. So I'm happy with all of these. Okay, my camera ran out of battery, but that's okay. This is the end of the tutorial anyway. So we'll go and select all of our photos. We'll click File, Export, and feel free to copy these settings that I have right here, but default settings should be fine. You can just pick your own folder that you want. Give it a bit of a cool little name, so we'll name this tutorial. Click Export, and it'll automatically open the file based on my settings anyway, once they're done exporting, which shouldn't take too long. Lastly, I want to say, be sure to try out the menus, see what's good, you know, just experiment for yourself. Mess around a bit, see what you can achieve with these menus. Good luck out there. Subscribe. Bang, and there you go. What did I tell you? Lightroom is easy as pie, and this whole progress, who says easy as pie? Oh my goodness gracious. The whole point is that I've showed it to you now, and for me this marks an awesome start because I just teach you something. Hopefully, maybe. I'm not gonna assume things. But at the same time, it also means that you're starting to learn more, and that you might just turn this photography thing into a real hobby with real benefits for, you know, going outside, mental health, all that stuff, you know. It could really benefit. It's just fun. It's goddamn, that's all I'm trying to say. Gosh darn, man.